What's up, everybody that just left Access Chat? Back for part 3 of Exposing Barry. We're gonna talk about a little bit about, some of the people he surrounded himself with, some of the shady shit he did. I alluded to this a little bit in the last chat, but Dr. Khalid Abdul Tariq Al Mansour was the guy. He had ties to the Saudi royal family. They gave $20 million to get Barry into college, but not only that, to get him as the editor of the Harvard Law Review. But of course, he used EO 13489 to keep all of his records sealed. So we never know any papers he published. Also, not any of his writings from the University of Chicago. He was what they call an adjunct professor who allegedly taught constitutional law, but he was disbarred for lying on his bar application. When they asked had he ever used any other names other than Barack Obama, he said no, which is not true because we all know he used Barry Soetoro. Anyway, he had members of the Muslim Brotherhood in his cabinet. Now, most of you know that the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization, and he had Muhammad Alibi as a member of the Homeland Security Advisory Council. Iman Muhammad Majid, or whatever that is, as another member of the Homeland Security Advisory Security Council. Rashan Hassan as a special envoy to the Muslim world. Now, these are 3 well-known terrorists that, were a part of this administration that held cabinet positions under the radar of the American public because he was all smoke and mirrors. He went out on all the talk shows and danced and smiled and, promised a lot of nonsense. A lot of people don't know that there were some black young men who were arrested at a rally for asking him what he was going to do for black people. They were arrested for that. He had no plan for black people. It was all about white women, gays, and Hispanics. And, we see what's going on now. Also under him, I mentioned HR 645, and that was the Emergency Center Establishment Act. That was the act that put the FEMA camps into place. And that went hand in hand with EO 13528, which was the Council of Governors. Now, every FEMA region, and there are 10 of them, they had a governor over the region in case we went under martial law. And he did put us under a soft form of martial law in March 16th of 2012. We all know about the NDAA. Also another thing he signed into by executive order is EO 13603, which is the National Defense Resource Preparedness Act. And under that, that's where you being a doomsday prepper would become a problem because, let's just say I stock up on water and dried food. The government could come seize those things without my permission. They could seize my transportation, if need be, without my permission, or any resources I have stocked up to prepare for a disaster. Just like I was saying last video, a lot of the alliances he was making, with, with Iran, Zbigniew Brzezinski was somebody big in his life. I've mentioned him in other videos, and he's Polish and he hated Russia. So he was really pushing for war with Russia. And if you read the Bible book of Daniel, the 11th chapter, verses 40 through 45, it will go over wars caused by the Antichrist. And it mentions Egypt, and it mentions Libya, and then it says Ethiopia. And what you have to realize that back in biblical days, the whole continent of Africa was referred to as Ethiopia before a Greek man named Caesar Africanus either settled or conquered it, and it was named after him. And if you were paying attention, in 2009 through 2011, Obama started wars in Egypt, Libya, and Tunisia. He also had other wars, Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, Congo, that, didn't get the publicity. Also, him trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad in Syria. That's also something in Bible prophecy. When you talk about Damascus is in Syria. So, he was trying to overthrow the Syrian government, and helps to create some kind of worldwide caliphate, even though al-Assad is most likely Muslim. He wasn't a puppet for him. So, if you look at Bible prophecy, you have the Emperor of the North and the Emperor of the South having a pushing contest. And the Emperor of the North would be, at this moment in time, Vladimir Putin. And at the time, during Obama's administration, he would have been the Emperor of the South. And you have the leopard and the lady, and the lady would be Queen Elizabeth. The leopard would have been Obama also, because he had 4 heads and 4 wings on his back for 44th president. But, he was indoctrinated, as I stated before, with his hatred for America at a very young age. And how he was chosen to be groomed for the position, I'm not quite sure yet. But, he did target a lot of people who was against him. And he did put forms of martial law in place, like during Hurricane Sandy. The people who went to those FEMA camps weren't allowed to leave until months later. So even if you had an ID, you were grown and you weren't allowed to leave. And that was just a soft test of their complete rollout of what they were going to try to get accomplished while he was president. Luckily some things happened to slow his agenda down. But, there were things where people were getting arrested for having lemonade stands. People were getting arrested for having home gardens, and that would fall under Agenda 21. With Monsanto. Monsanto had free reign, under Obama. The poisoning of the food, the poisoning of the water. Also talked about, them shipping clean water to China and giving us the dirty water. They always talk about the pollution from coal plants that goes into the air. But, that smoke that comes out of those smokestacks is carbon dioxide and water. The scrubbers send the toxic waste into the water, which they don't care about because that's the water we get as drinking water. And then you get bottled water, and if you don't get a bottle that's BPA free, then you're at risk of the side effects of the bisphenol A that's in plastic. And, the effects that it has when it's cooled or heated to a certain temperature, as we all well know. But, like I was, stating before, they plan to bring somebody in that spoke well enough to trick white people, and they knew he would trick black people by simply being black. Even though if Barack Sr. is his real father, he's more Arab than black and half white. Every president we've had thus far were like dominoes. They all one knocked the other one over. They had their specific roles that they had to play. George Bush took us on the brink of revolution, and Barack Obama was pulled to rein that back in and take away the black people's excuse of white supremacy. You can't have white supremacy with a black president, even though he could care less about the plight of black people. All he did was help create the racial climate that we're under now, and people put that on Donald Trump when they don't understand that the divisiveness of Trayvon Martin and Dylan Roof and Michael Brown, that stuff all happened under him. And his demonization of the police force, because he wanted to replace them with this civilian national security force that Rahm Emanuel spoke of. He was trying to create his own military force. The reason the United States ended the trade embargoes with Cuba, he went down there and they were training Cuban troops to possibly come over here if there was ever a civil uprising. Also, Jade Helm 15 happened under Obama. People seen tanks, people seen UN trucks, people seen UN soldiers training on the beaches, Russian soldiers, people from all over the place, because they have no stake in protecting the American people, because they're not American, so they don't care. So, you take a soldier that's American, he's going to have a problem killing American citizens. Another thing Obama did was he suspended Posse Comitatus, which was put in place in 1878, and that took away the military's ability to police on American soil. And so when martial law is instituted, that can be done. Posse Comitatus protected us from that. It's like kind of when Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, but on a grander scale. And they know these are things that people don't pay attention to, especially black people. The amount of executive orders he passed, the amount of people he surrounded himself with, Obama had more czars than anybody else. A lot of y'all know that Van Jones was one of his czars. He was the green energy czar, and he was so corrupt he ended up getting fired. That's just how bad Van Jones is. And, when I just start to upload more videos on what happened to Prince, because I was also requested to do that, I'll let y'all know Van Jones is tied to that, because he is definitely tied to that. And that's why he always wears purple. But it's not because he was a friend or a fan. It's for another reason. Anyway, the other czars people don't talk about is like John P. Holdren. He was the science and technology czar. And John P. Holdren actually said that trees should be able to sue us in court, over what they want to do. And Cass Sunstein was another czar. I can't remember exactly what kind of czar he was, but he said animals should have a right to sue us in court over what kind of food they eat and what kind of leashes and collars they have, all type of, nonsense. So, the Obamas were constantly, on vacation, constantly spending money, constantly making secret connections with terrorist organizations. Like I said, he gave Al-Qaeda weapons through J. Christopher Stevens. He gave $1.6 million for the start of ISIS. He was in Syria backing Hamas and Hezbollah, with the Iran nuclear deal. Valerie Jarrett has a history with Barack and Michelle back from Chicago. Her husband's father, Vernon Jarrett, was a good friend of Michelle Obama's parents. So they have ties to that corruption. Michelle Obama has ties to corruption with the University of Chicago Medical Center, where they were doing something called insurance dumping. What that is a white person with good insurance or a black person with good insurance, but in that situation, it was mostly white people that had good insurance. They would go to the University of Chicago Medical Center. Here in Ohio, we have Medical Mutual, which is good insurance. You show your insurance, you get treated. A black lady came in with her 12-year-old son who had part of his face bit off by a pit bull. She had Medicaid. She was told she couldn't be treated. Her son couldn't be treated there. And the next closest hospital was, a long ways away. And his injuries were severe. Also, Michelle's salary almost tripled when Barack became a state senator. And as a state senator, Barack missed over 95% of his votes. The only votes he was present for were votes about abortion. And George Bush, as dumb as everybody think he is, did sign into law the Born Alive Infant Protection Act. And that means as soon as a baby is born, it is a medical citizen and it has the right to life-sustaining medical treatment. Now, with every state being its own separate government, Illinois adopted its own version of the law. And for the most part, everybody voted for it. Barack Obama not only voted against it, but he gave verbal objections. And he has been caught on tape saying that, if a baby survives an abortion, but the parents don't want it, the baby should be dead. He's often said that if his daughter gets pregnant on accident, he doesn't want her punished with a baby. So as you can see, the love for his daughters, his so-called daughters, I believe is very fake. If you take the time to look up Martin and Anita Nesbitt, and then Sasha and Malia Obama, you will see that that's who they look like. And Anita Nesbitt is a doctor and a person who allegedly delivered those two for Michelle, but she actually delivered them herself and gave them to the Obamas to give them the appearance of being a family. Because like I said, Michelle's most likely a dude and Barry's a sissy, and that wouldn't fly back in 2007, 2008. Now they might be able to get away with it with all this transgendered and intersectionality nonsense, but back then, black people still did have a small amount of integrity for some of their beliefs. But another thing Barry was doing is once he destabilized Syria, he created a refugee program, and he would bring Syrian refugees over here. They were completely unvetted. The only thing they asked was what their religion was. If they were Muslim, they got in the country free and clear. They got a house, a car, a phone, free utilities, and a $64,000 a year salary for not doing shit. But if those Syrian refugees were Christians, they were basically held till they could see if they had a relative that was already in America that could sponsor them. And if not, they stayed detained, much like the Mexicans he detained. And some of them detainment centers are old Walmarts. Like I said, Jade Helm 15, which was big, and then it kind of faded away because, people have ADD for things that are important, or because, he was being propped up as somebody great that, black and white people and Hispanic people, a lot of people fell for his nonsense. So, you had him basically trying to, turn America Muslim. You let all these Syrians in here. You see Somalians are overran in Minnesota. You got all these other... Dearborn, Michigan is basically a Muslim city now. And there's nothing nothing that was done about it his whole 8 years in office. He was also somebody that believed in Cloward Piven. And it's been mentioned before, Richard Cloward, Francis Fox Piven were sociology professors in Columbia University in the 60s, and they wrote an article called The Way to the Poor in 1966. And this was one of the purposes of Obama flooding the food stamp and welfare system. Trying to create this automatic government income and basically break the government. Another thing people missed out on was the Fed and their 4 rounds of quantitative easing. Quantitative easing created a 1.5 quadrillion derivatives bubble. And if you listen to Max Kaiser, Gerald Celente, or any of these other financial experts, they talk in depth about, the derivatives bubble, which is never mentioned. So, the debt is well beyond the $20 trillion that we know of because of quantitative easing and printing money with no collateral and, the artificial market and the interest rates, which he was providing back when he was president. And, he's still trying to sabotage what Trump is doing as we speak. So hopefully, now that the Russian collusion thing is over, somebody will put a stop to what he did. The mere fact that there's no evidence that he ever even changed his name from Barry Soetoro to Barack Obama means everything he signed is illegal. On top of the fact that he's not really an American citizen. So, there's, tons of information about the bullshit he does. Everything I said is out there to be researched. PNN is a good channel with Carl Gallups. Like I said, he was all over the birth certificate issue, all over, the Social Security number issue. He also found something very interesting. Is he found a Bible scripture in Luke chapter 10 verse 18, and it says, "I behold Satan fall as lightning from heaven." Now, Barack Obama's name in Hebrew or Syrian Aramaic means lightning from heaven. So if you said that scripture in Aramaic, it would be, "I beheld Satan fall as Barack Obama," which shows you just how evil he is. And, if you're into gematria, a rabbi predicted that the gematria code for the Antichrist and the gematria code for Leader of America was both 501. And he came out with that before Barack even took the lead over Hillary Clinton. And I'm not saying that Obama is the official Antichrist, but he has the spirit of Antichrist. As I was telling you before, when he was in Berlin, Germany, and he gave his New World Order speech in 2009, he ended the speech by saying, "This is my struggle." In German, "This is my struggle" is Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf is the book that Hitler wrote. So, a lot of people call Donald Trump Hitler, but if you look at it, Obama has the characteristics of Hitler, and Hitler had the characteristics of an Antichrist. So, it's, spiritual warfare, political warfare, attacking us on all fronts. This video is almost 25 minutes long. I got some chicken wings I need to be eating, and some vodka and some really red grapefruit juice that I need to be drinking. But I figure I'd give y'all another installment of Exposing Barry. Tomorrow I'll probably make a video about symbolism and the trick of symbolism to, cause a distraction. As I was saying before, symbolism is taken from a positive way and made it negative. And if you fall for it, you'll be distracted from what's really going on. So, everybody check the video out tomorrow, whenever I make it. Because y'all know me, I like to take my old lady naps during the day. So, whenever I post it, I post it. Till then, to all my peoples from Axe Truth, what's up? Peace out. Peace symbol, not the Baphomet. This for the trolls. And I'll see y'all later.